Many other stories, like they say about Imam al-Bukhari, that certain people smelt perfume when they were placing him in his grave. You have many, many stories like this. Literally, people can smell death, especially the good type, where they get a scent or they get something of that kind that's unusual. You see them look around and then God takes their, or the angel takes their soul. So this type of scent for the khawas is very, very important, that the lovers of the Prophet ﷺ smell a particular scent. There are many stories where the people of God mentioned that they smelt something, and immediately after they saw the Prophet ﷺ in a wakeful state. Immediately after they saw him in a wakeful state, which is one of the signs that if you are going to get that vision, you'll smell something first, a particular type of perfume, and then you'll see the Messenger of God in a wakeful state. I read an article about about a month ago, a very long article about the hadith, man ra'ani fil manami sayara yaqdatan, that he who sees me in his dream will see me when he's awake. That it doesn't mean you'll see the Prophet ﷺ when you're in a wakeful state, and this refers to very, very long. Somebody wasted a lot of time on that. And I kind of concluded that maybe they don't want to see the Prophet ﷺ. I mean, even if it was disputed, let's say, you would always go for the positive side of it. You may get the vision of the Prophet ﷺ rather than the former. Very odd to me. Imam Subki makes very, very clear. He says it doesn't make any sense if you say it's the Day of Judgment, because even the kuffar get to see the Prophet ﷺ on the Day of Judgment. And they plead and they petition him to intercede on their behalf. So he said, as for the great believers, to see the Prophet ﷺ in a dream, the greatest gift is to see him in a wakeful state. Now, I mean, when you ask people what they want from the world, you surveyed 1 million Muslims, I don't think one of them would say, I want to see the Prophet ﷺ. And that's just a dark reality of our state. A dark reality of our state. I don't personally think there's anything in this world except to see the Messenger of God. You know, I know great people that have privately stated they have seen the Messenger of God. How is that even possible? How can you imagine that? They've seen him when they've been awake. I've asked them, what does it feel like? What does it look like? Some of them said, we see light first appear, and then we see the Messenger of God. But it's not like seeing a person. It is something that it's not like a projected thing. You can't explain it. You can't describe it. You know you can't reach, but you have to. But that's how we see. Some of them will say, I don't see, but I can hear the Messenger of God's voice in my ear. I can hear it. You see, I can hear his voice. How many of us can even, and these are people of this era, the amount of pollution that we have in our hearts. I'm the foremost first person. It's very difficult for the vision to penetrate, to be allowed to take place in that regard. I'll narrate a story to you. I was at a house of a sheikh in Morocco. Okay. I want to narrate this story. The great man of God, I believe anyway, in my heart anyway, the great man of God. And he won't know I'm telling this story because he doesn't know really what the internet is. His name is Mawla Hashim al-Bilgithi al-Hassani, the great sheikh of the Darqa wa Tariqa. I went to his house, sitting with him. Old man, maybe in his 80s, or 70s or 80s. So we were talking, and he was very quiet. He just has his tasbih in his hand. Very, very quiet. He looks at me and he says to me, he said, هل رأيت النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم حقيقة? I didn't reply to him. He said, have you ever seen the Messenger of God in true light, in reality? And when they say that, they mean wakefully. He said, I still remember the words he used. He said, حقيقة. And he doesn't talk much. Some of the brothers here that I've met him will tell you he doesn't talk much. I got him talking that night though. I wrote in my journal all my conversations we had. And he says to me, I just stayed quiet. And he went quiet as well. And then he said to me, I went on Hajj some years ago. And he said, I was on Hajj and I booked my ticket to come back home. I booked my ticket and then I was ready, I packed my stuff. So I went to sleep. He said, lo and behold, I'm standing in front of, not here. No, actually, what he said to me was also, then he said, هل رأيت روضة النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم كما كانت في عصره? Have you seen the Rawda of the Messenger of Allah as it was in his time, just after me? The Asr al-Sahab. I just like, it wasn't even, I didn't even say anything. Then he went quiet and later he told me. So he said, in the night time, he said, I was standing, he said, in my dream. He didn't even say dream to me. I don't know what words he used. He said, there, lo and behold, I'm in front of the grave of the Messenger of God. He said, not this grave. No. He said, the grave, the Rawda. He said, that's what the Sahaba used to see. He said, and I'm looking at it. He said, lo and behold, rising from the grave is the Messenger of God. Rising from the grave is the Messenger of God. And that's his grandfather. So I looked at him. The Messenger of God, he said, I gazed upon the face of the Messenger of God. And the Messenger of God said to me, he said, Aina tadhhab ya Hashim? I said, Hashim, where are you going? He said, so I said to him, Ya Rasulullah, Ya Sayyidi. He said, Ila watani? He said, I'm going home. And he said, the Messenger of God said, Bi-idhni man. He said, by whose permission are you leaving? He said, I stood there. He said, by whose permission are you leaving? I swear to you, this is the story that he told me. He said, Ya Rasulullah, ma'indi visa. Ya Rasulullah, he said, I've got no visa. So the Messenger of God looked behind him and he said, the Indians and the Pakistan, the Bengalis were all cleaning the masjid. So we had some maqam. And he looked at me and he said, and who gives them their visa? Who gives them their visa? And he said, I looked up. He said, I give them their visa. He said, I give people stay in the city. He said, nobody has authority over the authority. He said, you're not going anywhere till I tell you. He said, I woke up. He said, by God, he said, I unpacked my stuff. He said, I don't know what to do. He said, I stayed there for over 6 months until the Messenger of God gave me permission. He said, I walked through the airport and nobody asked me any questions. And I came home. That's a man's heart who's with the heart of the Messenger of God, alayhi salatu wasalam. That's a serious. Then he said to me, I'll tell you another story. His son was there. His son walked out the room. His son is a scholar, Shaykh Abdul Kabir. He said, Hada Abdul Kabir. They have the French type of accent in Morocco. He said, Huwa kana fi sighrihi yara nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam da'im. He said, he, my son, when he was a boy, could always see the Messenger of God in his dream. He said, to test him, I would ask him questions. I used to say, if you've seen the Messenger of God, then go and ask the Messenger of God, on this day, at this time, what did he say to me? On this day, on this time, what did he say to me? And then I believe you. And he said, he used to come back and tell me. This is a man of God, real man of, you should go meet him, inshallah. He's in Marrakesh. He doesn't come out very much though. But he's a man of God. Very simple man. You meet him, he's just a simple man. He just put food out for you to eat. That's all he does. He just walks out the room, comes back, puts food down. He very rarely talks. But this is a man whose heart is connected to the Messenger of God. He told me that his father, another one of the little stories, said, my father, he told me, his father was a great man of God as well. He said, my father, I'm talking about people's love for the Messenger, what he gives them. He said, my father said he was dreaming, he was in a dream, and he's holding hands with the companions. And in the middle of all of them is the Messenger of God. Okay. And he said, all of us in the dream, he said, in the dream, my father said, all of us ascended into the sky, into light. He said, my father said to me that when he woke up, he was standing like this. Standing like that. These are people who are connected to the Messenger of Allah, alayhi salatu wasalam. I'm not talking Ghazali 7th century. I'm talking this century. These people, lovers of the Messenger of God, and the kind of effects. This is real. I saw a video of our Shaykh Ahmad Habib before he left this world, and Shaykh Saeed Burhani, who's also passed away now, is in the room with him. And Shaykh Ahmad Habib, I'm very lucky that I never got to see him in that state, in his bed. I only got to see him on his seat. You see, it'd be very difficult for me. So they're sitting there, and he was close to before he died. Shaykh Sjaad says to him that Shaykh Sjaad said, hey, Shaykh Ahmed Habib is telling them to make dua for him. He said, make dua for him. And Shaykh Sjaad watched the videos online, but there's no translation. He said, Sayyidi, you do it. He said, you are the one who is always with the messenger of God. That was a man's level. Some people would say in Damascus that he would be seen with the messenger of God. Shaykh Ahmed Habib. He was a man, he was a grandson of the Prophet ﷺ as well, but he was a man that was always connected to the messenger of God. Not just through practice, he's just overwhelmed by the messenger of Allah, overwhelmed by the person of the messenger of Allah. Like Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyah said, Kitab al-Ruh, his soul encompasses the cosmos, by the messenger of Allah. Some other Sahaba that I won't mention before I mentioned earlier the Abu Ayyub al-Ansari and the grave. He was leaning his face against the grave of the messenger of Allah. No, I'm going to conclude here then, inshallah. I had some more preparation, but we're getting to the end. I don't like going over the top. Now, I